Every once in a while, a story comes along that completely shatters stereotypes, breaks expectations, and leaves people speechless. This is one of those stories. Imagine a crowded martial arts gym, the air filled with the smell of sweat and determination, students sparring on mats while a group of onlookers cheer and laugh. In the center of it all stood a man, a black belt fighter. He was strong, confident, and known for his cocky sense of humor. To him, it was just a harmless joke, a playful challenge he expected to end with laughter from the crowd. To Amani, however, it was something much deeper. She had spent years being underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked. The smirks and whispers around the gym reminded her of every time people doubted her strength, her intelligence, her discipline. So, when the black belt extended his hand and jokingly asked her to fight, she didn't hesitate. What happened next stunned the crowd into silence. No one expected her to step forward, let alone prove that she was far more than anyone imagined. The gym was buzzing that Saturday afternoon. Martial arts students of all levels had gathered for sparring practice. Coaches barked instructions, gloves smacked against pads, and sneakers squeaked against the mat. Among the crowd was Marcus the Panther Reed, a tall, muscular fighter with a reputation. Marcus wasn't just a black belt in karate. He was also a regional champion in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. His skills were undeniable, but so was his arrogance. He enjoyed showing off, cracking jokes, and sometimes humiliating people just for a laugh. As he scanned the crowd of spectators, his eyes landed on Imani. She had only come to support her younger cousin, a teen training in the beginner's class. Dressed in jeans, sneakers, and a simple t-shirt, she stood out among the GIs and belts. She wasn't there to fight, wasn't there for attention. But Marcus saw an opportunity. With a smirk, he walked to the center of the mat and raised his voice. "Hey, you! Yeah, you in the jeans. Want to spar?" Laughter rippled through the room. Heads turned toward Imani. Some giggled, others whispered. Surely Marcus was joking. A black belt against a random woman who wasn't even dressed for training. But Imani didn't laugh. She tilted her head, crossed her arms, and stared directly at Marcus. "You sure about that?" she asked calmly. The crowd chuckled louder, assuming she was playing along. Marcus grinned wider. "Oh, don't worry, I'll go easy on you." Imani stepped forward, untied her sneakers, and placed them neatly by the mat. She moved with quiet confidence, the kind that made the room pause. What Marcus and the rest of the crowd didn't know was that Imani was far from a novice. Though she wasn't dressed like a fighter, she had spent over a decade practicing Muay Thai and boxing. On top of that, she had served in the military, where hand-to-hand combat was part of her training. "Gloves?" she asked, her voice steady. The coach hesitated, unsure whether to allow the spar, but Marcus was insistent. "Come on, coach. It's just for fun. Let's give the crowd a show." Reluctantly, the coach handed Imani a pair of gloves. She slipped them on, tightened the straps, and rolled her shoulders. The room grew quiet. The laughter dimmed. Something about her composure made people lean in, curious. Marcus bowed mockingly. Marcus started light, bouncing on his feet, throwing playful jabs. He wasn't taking it seriously. He expected Imani to flinch, back away, maybe even give up before it got physical. But she didn't move. Her stance was sharp, her eyes tracking his every movement. She waited, patient. When Marcus threw his first real punch, she slipped it effortlessly, pivoted, and countered with a clean jab to his ribs. The smack echoed through the gym. The crowd gasped. Marcus blinked, surprised. He chuckled, trying to shake it off, but his pride had been hit harder than his body. He picked up the pace, throwing a combination. Imani weaved, blocked, and countered again, a crisp hook that landed square on his jaw. The laughter was gone. The room was silent now, except for the thuds of gloves and the sound of Marcus grunting as he absorbed impact after impact. People's eyes widened. Who was this woman? Marcus was no longer joking. He squared up, his black belt, pride pushing him to prove himself. But the harder he fought, the more Imani exposed his weaknesses. Her footwork was sharp. Her timing was precise. Every move he made, she read it like a book. Within minutes, it was clear. This wasn't a mismatch. This was a masterclass. Imani landed a spinning elbow that nearly knocked Marcus off balance. The crowd erupted. Gasps, cheers, and shouts filled the gym. Nobody was laughing anymore. They were witnessing something extraordinary. Marcus tried to clinch, using his size to overpower her, but Imani's knee shot up fast, striking his abdomen and forcing him to stumble back. Sweat dripped down his face as he realized this wasn't just about fighting anymore. This was about respect. By the third round, Marcus was exhausted. His punches slowed, his defense dropped. Imani, however, was still sharp, still composed. She wasn't fighting angry. She was fighting with discipline, with control, with purpose. Finally, with one swift sweep, she took him to the mat. Marcus lay on the mat, breathing hard, staring up at the ceiling in disbelief. For the first time in years, he had been humbled. And not by another champion, but by the very woman he thought was a joke. Imani offered her hand, helping him up. Her expression wasn't smug, wasn't mocking. It was calm, respectful. Never underestimate someone, she said softly, just loud enough for him and the crowd to hear. The lesson hit harder than any punch. From that day on, the story of Imani Johnson spread beyond the walls of that gym. Videos of the fight circulated online, gathering millions of views. She became a symbol of strength, discipline, and breaking stereotypes. Marcus, to his credit, admitted his mistake publicly. He even began training with Imani, recognizing her as not just an equal, but as a mentor in many ways. Their spar had turned into a partnership, one built on mutual respect. Imani's story is an inspiring example of how our preconceived notions can blind us to someone's true potential. It's a reminder to all of us to be careful about making assumptions based on appearances or stereotypes. Everyone has their own unique story and abilities, and it's only when we look beyond our preconceived notions that we can truly appreciate and learn from one another. Beautifully put. Imani's story embodies so many Beautifully put. Imani's story Beautifully put. Imani's story embodies so many important messages about humility, self-respect. Beautifully put. Imani's story embodies so many important messages about humility, self-respect, and the dangers of underestimating others. And you're absolutely right. Her quiet confidence and grace under pressure were just as powerful as any punch or kick she delivered. It's a reminder to us all that strength comes in many forms and that we should be mindful of the assumptions we make about people based on outward appearances. The way you've woven together the themes of respect, humility, and self-awareness is both eloquent and moving.